So a regular contributor to our show is Dr. Kapil Gupta, and he does an intriguing weekly segment with us called Finding Freedom. Once again, I'm so thankful to share a little bit of time with Dr. Kapil Gupta. Dr. Gupta, how are you doing this evening?
Very well, Mark. Wonderful to be with you again.
No, I appreciate your time. I'm going to just dive right in because you explained to me off the air that you haven't watched television in about 8 months, and I find this intriguing. So I'm keen to see the eventual results of this exercise you've been involved in. But all that aside, and I digress. Okay, here's Mark Immelman, and I'm not the interviewer now. I'm coming to you for a little guidance, and the guidance is as follows. I'm the golfer. I've played well. I haven't played well. So I start trying things. I fiddled with my technique that had limited success. Then I started to try and visualize things, and then I was good for a bit. Then it sort of came apart at the seams. And then I tried deep breathing, and I tried all these little techniques. And then I read a discourse of yours, and the discourse was talking to the trap that ensnares every athlete in the world. Do you care to share a little light on that for me, please?
I will say this. The issue, I think, is to define problems and solutions. I think that if you look at problems and solutions, they are very much the same thing, and they're not different. The problem that most people face, and it's not necessarily their fault, it's just the way that society has sort of taught them to be, is that there is this continual retreat into a solution. When you retreat into a solution, you are not solving the problem, you are avoiding it. Solutions do not give you the answers to problems. It's almost like running away from it. What gets you to the bottom of a problem in terms of its so-called solution is to immerse yourself completely in the problem until you are so drenched in it that the solution automatically appears before you. Mm-hmm. If you are continually on a search to look for a solution to anxiety or to pressure or to fear or to whatever have you will come up with all of these techniques, and people will throw them at you and say, well, try this, try breathing meditation, try X and Y. The problem is that each one of those solutions is aimed to help your performance. That is a very narrow avenue of a peephole through which to look through. Try and define what it is that you want. Are you looking for an improvement of performance, or are you looking for freedom? Because those are very, very different questions. And questions create the path, and answers take you off them. So as long as you have a sort of symptom that you are presenting, you will have no shortage of individuals giving you a concoction or a potion in order to quell that symptom. The problem is that though it may help for a little while, it will always return. And the reason is because the question wasn't big enough.
Okay. All right. Well, it makes a whole lot of sense to me, I guess, if I think about that real deeply. But now I'm a tournament golfer, and I say to you, okay, that's all very well. I understand, I have a certain amount of understanding as to where you're going here. But how is that going to help me in the larger scheme of things when I'm a golfer and I'm coming to you and really, I guess, sure, I'm digging for deeper understanding. But I'd also like to play some good golf when it means something under the highest of pressures.
Absolutely. Let's continue on with this. So you are the golfer. Let's take this full forth. I will ask you, what is preventing you from playing your best golf?
I get overly nervous. I don't seem to be able to deliver my best under pressure. And I'm just for the listeners, I'm speaking with Dr. Kapil Gupta, and I'm just tossing out a few things that I've heard from clients. So I get nervous. I doubt my ability to perform under pressure. I have a fear of a certain type shot. The list is endless, but those, I guess, are just the major touch points, if you will.
And my answer to that would be, how much time have you spent exploring each letter in the word nervousness? How much time have you spent exploring the nature of your fear?
Ooh, I would say to you, none whatsoever, because I wasn't so sure if I was nervous because I was apprehensive of playing poorly, or if I was nervous because I was kind of hopeful that I'd play well, but I just didn't know what the future held in store.
That's right. And the future will never hold anything in store for you because it doesn't exist.
Okay.
The future will never arrive. The past will never return. You are left with the present. And the present is not a buzzword. The present is not a little cherry plucked from a Buddhist tree in ancient India. Mm-hmm. Okay? The present is a true living inspiration. The present is a way in which to live off the course, perhaps more than on the course, because whatever you do off the course, you bring with you on the course. You are the same human being that brings himself with himself to the course. So I will say to you that the number one reason that things don't go away is because they're never faced. And I don't mean that emotions need to be faced confrontationally or in an adversarial fashion or to suck it up or to fight through it. That is not what I mean. I mean that you have to literally be willing to dive into the inferno to find out where the inferno is beginning. If all you are asking for is a fire extinguisher, someone will extinguish the fire for you. But next week, I promise you it'll return. Okay. So my answer will not be a tip which says, if you want to overcome pressure, I want you to think of the 3 Ds.
Gotcha.
I will not say to you, in order to stop choking, that's because you are thinking of the future and not the present. I will say to you that those things don't help. And the reason they don't, and the evidence for that, is that why do you have players walking around with the same sports psychology for 15 years? Mm-hmm. Why is that? Shouldn't it be fixed by now?
Sure, right? Yeah.
The fixes are not fixes. The fixes are Band-Aids. The fixes are brightly colored pills. And that is why I find that, or I know for a fact, that the people who will seek my counsel will be absolutely the minority of individuals. If I get a million people on the website, I'm doing something wrong.
Okay.
Because the masses will not go for this. It is precisely the one individual who says, maybe all that I've been learning for all these years in terms of potions and tips and tricks and 3Ds and 4Ds, maybe that's not it. And it's that person who has a chance of seeing the ultimate truth.
So in effect, it's more one searching deeper within oneself and questioning rather than just looking for the next elixir or the next fix-it-all, correct? If I'm understanding you properly?
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Because the elixir will not be the fix that you're seeking.
Gotcha. Okay, well, now this brings up a question because I'm sure a bunch of our listeners are sitting here going, that sort of resembles me to a certain extent. What advice then, or what counsel could you have for the listener that may have prompted his or her thought, and now they're digging a little deeper into themselves, saying, okay, now what sort of questions do I need to ask of myself, or where do I start looking?
You look where the problem is. So if you are the golfer, or if you are the hockey player, or if you're the soccer player, or whatever you are, whatever sort of performer that you are, you look where the problem is. What is your problem? That's why I always begin with every client. What is the problem? And the problem is never, I'm not shooting low scores. The problem is never, I wish my performance was better. That is the semblance of the problem. Okay. That is the cosmesis of the problem. If you keep digging, no one really knows the question, to be honest with you, Mark.
Yeah.
The question has to be found. And because no one does the digging, because they've never been forced to dig, right?
Yeah.
So you must dig and find, okay, I'm fearful. Okay, when are you fearful? I'm fearful in this sort of situation. Okay, well, what is it about that situation that makes you fearful? I need to have my finger on the naked pulse.
I got you.
And until I find it, we're just talking potions and tricks.
But those are just so much easier to deal with, Dr. Gupta.
You bet they are. You bet they are. And I will tell you, they're the most inspirational man that I've ever heard of in my life was Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha. And in the end, before he achieved enlightenment, I'm very big on religiousness more than just plain religion.
Yeah.
But he was a real seeker. And before he reached enlightenment, the the force of Maya, which is the force of illusion, says to him, "O you who goes where no man dares." And that's precisely right. He was willing to go into the depths of himself, into the ugliness, into the forest, the jungle, and the wilds of himself, which no one wants to go there. But that's where the answers are. That's where the true answers are. And that is the problem that you must be willing to immerse yourself in if you want any kind of meaningful answer.
So then, I know you've been sort of removed from pop culture and professional golf to a large extent over recent times, but I'm sure you somewhat, or stop me if you're not, you're somewhat au fait with the fact that Tiger's taken an indefinite leave of absence from the game, and Dustin Johnson, by the same token, took some time off and has come back an entirely stronger, more focused, and wildly better player. He was always very, very talented. But do you think there was a certain amount of that introspection and digging and sort of laying himself threadbare during that time that has brought Dustin Johnson back a better player?
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, there is no such thing as a player. There's only a human being masquerading as a player. And the human being and his heart and his psyche is what must be addressed. Mm-hmm. Everything else is just on the outside.
I understand. Well, that makes a lot of sense now, because when I was obviously down in Miami last week at the World Golf Championships, Cadillac Championship, which he won. And he and his fiancée have just had a little baby boy, Tatum. And he had this 6-month hiatus from the game. Comes back and wins his 4th event, I think it is, out. But to watch him come there to scoring and to see the unabashed joy on his face when he saw his fiancée and picked up his little baby boy, it was almost more than what it was when he held the winning putt for the tournament. Is that sort of indicative of what you're describing, would you say?
Absolutely. What you're describing is that he was overjoyed by the place in which his humanity was, not in which his performance was. And that, at the end of the day, is what all of us seek. I will tell you, Mark, no one really seeks lower scores. No one seeks trophies. No one seeks wins. No one seeks money lists. No one seeks world golf rankings. No one seeks those things. They do, but they don't. And the reason they tell you they do is because they haven't gone through the introspection. What they really seek is bliss. They seek peace. And those trophies and those world golf ranking points and those things are all euphemisms for self-worth and for peace and for bliss and for inner happiness. It's all they are. But when you look at those things as taking the place of those things, then what you must do, the contract that you make says, since I must win in order to feel good, I better win a lot. And winning a lot and golf are almost mutually exclusive.
Yeah, no kidding.